Hi everyone, I'm Anthony O'Flynn. I hope you're all doing great. I was on a coaching call with a client this morning and the topic of life purpose came up, which is obviously a very big topic and one that's relevant to all of us in different ways. And I've long held the view that many of the mental health problems that we suffer today in our society, not all, but many, stems from the root cause of people not having a genuine life purpose. Obviously, we can divide the life purpose into our inner world and outer world, but our life purpose really defines and shapes who we are. It defines and shapes our legacy, and it gives an intrinsic framework to our entire meaning for our existence. In this really limited 3D reality, we're often sort of tempted to live a life, even in the context of life purpose, which revolves around impressing other people or having a facade of success or of meaning that is, in essence, a smokescreen for a form of inner emptiness. And for many people, it actually shows up as an undiagnosed existential crisis for a lack of true direction and structure for the entire framework of this life. And you can see it time and time again as it's reflected in our society, particularly what we value so highly now. We've just had the Black Friday sales. We've had this wave of mass consumerism again. Not saying that buying things that you need at a reduced price is a bad idea or anything, but basically it's always this external orientation and this very materialistic orientation that actually prevents us from discovering our own true calling, our own soul calling in our life. And this doesn't matter who you are or what occupation you have or your socioeconomic status or your nationality or your religion or any of these things. It really comes back to the fundamental purpose of why am I here? And it's a question that the answer to just won't go away. I mean, it's something that we overlook as being navel-gazing or as philosophical or as some sort of intangible quest. But this code for meaning is unlocked in all of us for basically our existence itself and our meaning of our soul journey. And too often we're prepared to compromise it in today's society to stay in our comfort zone. Whether that's the whole way of living where people just basically get an education, get a qualification, go into a career and stay in their comfort zone their whole life just to be material cocooned in this stability and this security and this sort of perceived success, while on the inside they're very unrewarded, very unfulfilled, very empty, so to speak. And it's an epidemic in Western culture. And I mean, I know that there's very many other reasons for the severe mental health challenges that we have in our society. For example, men are much more likely to commit suicide after a divorce, and the statistics show that men are much more likely to commit suicide in comparison to women. So I'm not saying that other life events will influence a person's mental state in a negative way, but it's this existential crisis on this planet that, at least I feel, that is crying out for people to have a deeper purpose that is for themselves. It's not to prove something to anybody else or to be successful in the eyes of someone else. It's basically for their own integration into this physical reality, which will vary and be unique from soul to soul. But the purpose is to follow this quest, which is in some ways related to the hero's journey, which is such a profound theme because it's an archetype in our subconscious mind, and it's actually replicated in as the framework for many of the successful Hollywood films. For example, The Matrix is based on the archetype of the hero's journey, the character Neo being the hero, so to speak. Same with Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, also in Hunger Games, Katniss, The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy being the archetype, Avatar, I think the character's name was Jake, being the archetype, and it just goes on and on. That the actual major themes of this archetype is burned into our subconscious mind because we're all wanting to be the hero in our own story. But very often what prevents us from executing that is our conditioning, conforming to societal norms, our inability to be courageous enough to confront ourselves, to confront these norms, to break out of the box of just conforming to what is the done thing, the perceived thing, and having the courage to live a life that perhaps no one else will understand, but will give us meaning and structure and a striving for this fulfillment through honouring this calling. It is not going to be easy, and it is not something that will ever end, and it will something that may change throughout the course of our life, at least from the external meaning of life. But the purpose of life is not to have everyone make sense of it and everyone to approve it. And it's really summed up in Nietzsche's quote that he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. I read that again. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. And it basically means that when you have a purpose, you can put up with a lot of inconveniences, perhaps be uncomfortable, perhaps things that would appear very important to other people would be very secondary to you. And you can bear almost anyhow. And the reverse is true in the context of our world today, that if you don't have a genuine purpose, if you don't have a genuine why, then all you will focus on is how you live, not what you live for. And our society, with its excessive focus on consumption, on consumerism, on materialism, on all these secondary concerns, is a reflection of an inner emptiness, that we don't have a why. So then all we focus on is how. It's all about good food. It's all about renovating our house. It's all about being materially successful. It's all about impressing other people. And so on. And when we have these values and this way of living, it actually narrows the bandwidth of our experience in this life. And it becomes very obvious when you only focus on the how, not the why, that you misconceive that this life is limited, that this material existence is short-term and very transitory, and we all will die. And this can be really summed up in one historical figure's actions. That was Alexander the Great, that he actually, one of his desires, or there was three of them actually, that he wanted to be buried, basically, when he was buried, that he should have 2 holes drilled in his coffin, and his hands should be extended out to the coffin, empty, facing upwards, as a symbol that even Alexander the Great would leave this world with nothing. And this was a man who was conquering countries in his 20s, was very materially successful, very wealthy beyond most people's imagination, and yet he too would leave here, this material plane, with literally nothing, obviously, except for his soul. And this was one of his wishes. There was other ones as well, which I won't go into in this video. But the point is, I'm actually getting rained on pretty badly here. I'm going to move the camera. The point is that in this transitory experience, what do we take with us is the investment we make in our soul. That's why the dictum for holistic yoga, the tagline is invest in your soul, because there is no other investment. There is no other takeaway from this life except what we actually get to experience, understand, and integrate at a soul level. And so this existential crisis that humanity has today, what are we living for? And there's a lot of focus on this conversation, of our legacy, which in my words in my view is a very misunderstood term, misunderstood concept, the idea of leaving a legacy. I won't go into that now, but what is the legacy? The legacy is basically, at the highest level, a reflection of who we are as a person, how we carried ourselves as a soul, and what meaning we gave to this existence. What was our soul calling, and the courage to act on that, and to have this this clarity of the mind and this ability to bring this forward into this material reality in whatever way we see fit to. And I can't stress enough that this is really based on the idea that it gives us meaning, that it's essential for us, because our focus on the external world here, whether we're trying to create an image of being successful or abundant or in whatever capacity we choose to, we often ignore or bypass what's going on inside us. And it doesn't matter how much we have externally or materially if we're withering and feeling empty and unfulfilled within. So almost this would have to be, in my view, the biggest existential crisis we have on this planet is, why am I here? And if you don't know why you're here, you don't know what you came to do, you don't know what you came to learn, you don't know what you came to experience, then everything else is secondary and is meaningless, really. That isn't to say that it's not good to have the good fruits and the good food and comfort and enjoyment in material things, far from it. But as a priority, as a focus, where is our focus on this existential question? Why am I here? Without it, we just drift and we just focus on the how we're living, which is one of the most decadent aspects that we're seeing in our culture as we head towards the end of Kali Yuga, that there becomes this greater and greater focus just on the how, the excess, and so on. You can see, like, it's also indicative of the Roman Empire towards the end, and it's a signal that this empire is ending. That's another topic for now, but that's all I wanted to share for today. It's a really pertinent question to ask ourselves. Why did I incarnate? What am I hoping to experience? What meaning do I give to this life, both at an internal level and an external level? What will my legacy be? And how do I take action to follow through with this quest of meaning? And the meaning is, you're the only person that can give that, can answer these questions. There's no manual, there's no blueprint, there's no sort of textbook you can refer back to. Everyone will have a different meaning, but the real quest is to have the courageousness and to really participate in the hero's journey. And part of this is actually honouring the calling, which is the first stage, to honour this quest of seeking deeper meaning and at a much deeper spiritual dimension. Thanks for watching. We live in epic times.